Hey everybody, it's Carm here, back on a Friday afternoon. Was going to do this outside before, but it's a little warm and humid, which isn't really my favorite climate. So yeah, back in after quite some time, and I felt like coming on and getting back to a series which I hadn't done in quite a while, probably since some of my earliest videos, in which I go into my collection and just pull out some stuff I hadn't listened to in a long time, and even some things I'd forgotten about. And listening to a lot of stuff in general lately. Of course, the great CDs that Axel Book and Jeff Vinyl Spin sent, and the ones Jeff sent. I mean, there's so much there. I'm still just barely cracking them. Have some playing in different. Have some stuff in the car, some in the other room. The jazz stuff. I mean, just some incredible listens there. And I just done a Tangerine Dream video, and that's sending me back to listen to some, revisit some things. But amongst those, just some LPs as well, here and there. So yeah, that'll be the focus this time around. And appropriately enough, the first one, Focus, Moving Waves. Now Gary, Cosmic Pickle, just he recently did responded to a thread I did on albums in which the first song gave no indication or little indication of what the rest of the album would sound like, and this is what he showed. And I had forgotten I had this. I'm not sure how long I've had this in the collection, and honestly didn't even know I had it. I don't remember getting it. Don't remember actually buying it consciously. I don't know, I'm thinking maybe it was left here. Some years ago, my brother, his ex-girlfriend, I think had given him some records that her folks didn't want, and I think Spooky Tooth was in there. A lot of those kinds of groups, and I'm guessing this is one of them. And if I had listened to it, I don't remember. But upon listening to it, I really enjoy it, and I can see, of course, where Gary, the first song, Hocus Pocus, it is quite different than much of the rest of the album. As he had pointed out, there's yodeling on there, and it's just more of like a fast-paced, more of a hard rock, like a harder progressive rock at times. Higher energy. Whereas the rest of that side is very, at times almost ambient, very quiet, a little more acoustically oriented. Yeah, there's Thys Van Leer, an organ, mellotron, woodwinds. Jan Ackerman and guitar, really nice. And the second side is Eruption. Looks like it's broken up into a suite of pieces. And on there it's more along like progressive rock, jazz rock fusion. It goes through a lot of different moods, and very, very nice thematic. Really takes you on a journey. It's really a nice album overall. Given it one listen, so far since I dug it out after being reminded of it from Gary. So yeah, thanks Gary for responding to that and showing this. And again, it was a great surprise. Not even realizing I had it until I found it again. Another one that I'm sure Gary's never heard of this one. John Abercrombie, Night. Of course, I think Gary did. I think he did 2 videos on Abercrombie. I think one on his solo work and another on collaborations, I believe. And again, this is another one. I thought when Gary did his video and went through the 80s output, I thought this was the one that I didn't have, and it turns out I did. And again, I'm not even sure when I got this one. I was thinking I'll have to order up the CD sometime, but I'm looking at the price sticker there. I think this is from a shop that's no longer in business. We had on the north side of town called Dead Wax, and they closed down some years ago. But if I remember correctly, this is from this shop. So, and this is over 5 years ago, I think, since I had last been there. So, I've had this for a while, and I don't know, maybe I didn't like it as much when I first listened to it, but I liked it a lot more on the second time, or however many times it had been since then. 1984. This is from. And it gets back to the group on his first solo album, Timeless, from 10 years before. Jan Hammer is on there, keyboards, Jack DeJohnette, and the late great Mike Brecker, tenor sax. It really adds a lot to the album, and I love the photography of ECM in general, which of course this is on. But the stuff they were doing during the 80s, some of the backing photography is really really evocative, this kind of cityscape, which I mean you normally associate ECM as being more pastoral, rural. But yeah, really nice album, pretty diverse. It's high energy, but there's also some nice, nice contrast, quieter passages. And yeah, it sounds a lot better, I guess, than when I first heard it. I mean, otherwise I think I would have remembered it. What I didn't realize from the first time around is a nice insert, kind of I guess like a promotional blurb for it, kind of little critique and everything, almost like in the form of a newsletter, and a headshot here, nice glossy. So it stayed in great condition over the years that I wasn't aware that I had it. So yeah, the man himself, Abercrombie, from a little over 30 years ago. So yeah, it was a great, really nice revisit here. Get many more listens. And again, hearing this same group from 10 years on, Jan Hammer's playing in particular, organ kind of brings back the earlier album Timeless. But yeah, it's definitely gone a lot of other directions since then. So yeah, really nice stuff. Would definitely recommend this one among his 80s output. I got another ECM here, Dewey Redman Quartet. The Struggle Continues from 1982. It's another one. I knew I had it, but and I listened to it quite a bit early on, however long I've had it, maybe 10, 12 years. Terrific album, really nice. For the most part, it's pretty straight ahead. I guess what you could call post-bop, I guess, it would be called. There's one tune on here in particular, Combinations, on the second side, which is a little more like free jazz. They really kind of, more of a collective improvisation. Yeah, Mark Helias on bass, Charles Eubanks piano, and Ed Blackwell on drums. So it was a group at the time. Yeah, really nice date there. And what's unusual about this album is it's produced by Robert Hurwitz, which at the time it was, for the most part, if it wasn't the artist themselves, it was usually Manfred Eicher who was the sole producer. Oh, we have a visitor, the Fuzzies. So yeah, Gary was saying he looked forward to seeing my supporting cast at some point. Well, here they are now that I'm back indoors. But, yeah, I would very much recommend this one. Again, more of a straight ahead, contemporary jazz of the time. But yeah, just really nice stuff. And I was really fortunate to see Dewey Redman live a few years before he passed away at the Jazz Showcase. He was also playing, in addition to the tenor sax, the musette. It's like a double reed, Middle Eastern, Far Eastern instrument. Really, really neat sound. So great stuff. It was also in a quartet format like this too. So yeah, it definitely brought me back to that. Laughing at what's playing here. I'll get to it when I get to the end. But thinking of Gary with this one.
When the physical body dies.
A little thing between Gary and I, but yeah, I'll get to it at the end of the video here. Next up, David Underdunk, Close Call. Primarily solo guitar on Quaver Records, which is actually, it's local out of Evanston, Illinois, which is just north of here along Lake Michigan. And yeah, this is primarily solo acoustic guitar. A little bit of amplified acoustic steel string, which gives it a real nice kind of warm atmosphere to it. Also, there's a guest appearance by Fred Simon on Oberheim OBX synthesizer. Plays on a couple of cuts. And Fred Simon himself recorded at least a couple albums for this label. I have a few others on this label from the time. I didn't exist for very long. I think maybe the mid to late 80s, maybe into 1990. But if you like, it's somewhere between Windham Hill Narada, and even ECM. In fact, some parts you'd swear was a lost ECM, like the solo instrumental albums that they were doing in the late 70s, early 80s. But really nice stuff, and really nice guitar player. It's probably a little less formulaic than some of the Windham Hill and Narada stuff. So yeah, again, a little more like ECM, as you would expect, quite pastoral. A little bit jazzy at times, but I wouldn't really call it jazz. It kind of exists in that kind of gray area between genres, which I really like. Would definitely recommend if you like solo guitar, instrumental. And it's another one I've had for probably since early 2000s from Dave's Records, which didn't get it for very much at all. It's another place on the north side of town, which I hadn't been to in a while, but you always find nice stuff of this sort when I'm there. Another really nice one, Rand Blake, Breakthrough, on Improvising Artists, Paul Bley's old label, from 1976. Yeah, it's a great solo piano stuff. I'm trying to think of someone in the VC. Could it be Roger Coleman? Someone had said I think they said they studied with him at some point, which I know he's I think he's been in a conservatory, maybe in New England, for quite some time. He's kind of a mix. I think he's considered kind of a innovator of what's known as third stream, kind of a hybrid of jazz and classical. And really, you could hear the. He'll play almost like a traditional jazz, like a stride piano section, and then he'll go into something that sounds like contemporary classical, kind of almost a fragmented style. And then he'll go into another jazzy turn. But it's just really interesting. His whole approach and his pacing is really really distinctive. To my knowledge, he's still living. I think he's around maybe his late 70s, early 80s. But yeah, if you're interested in solo piano, which takes a lot of kind of unpredictable turns, would definitely recommend it. And even like Paul Bley himself, who produces this, he kind of has that kind of similar idiosyncrasies. And I always love these covers on this label, anything they do. So yeah, and I remember, I got this. Yeah, it's even on there. Got it pretty cheap from way back when. Oop, cat fight. But, yeah, really nice stuff. Another ECM here. Epidemics by Shankar and Caroline. I love this. The same photograph. One's the negative of the other. Having listened to ECM for a very long time, and have a lot of much of the output from the last 40 odd years of the label, this is probably one of the most unusual for the label as far as the style and approach. Not something when you talk about the ECM sound or aesthetic, it's definitely a little outside of it, to say the least. Yeah, Shankar is on 10-string double violin, also synthesizers and drum machine. Caroline and vocals, synthesizer too, and tambora. Steve Vai is on the album on guitar, Gilbert Kaufman synthesizer, and Percy Jones on bass. Yeah, I'd say it's basically like a synth pop, even somewhat new wave. It's really kind of like taking a shot at doing a pop album. Really, there's vocals, I think, on every cut from what I remember, and it's from 1986. And yeah, it's like a really nice, fun mid-80s time capsule into synth pop. Very different from what you'd associate with ECM. I know Shankar's done a lot of albums, or he did at least a few for ECM, and collaborated with Jan Gabarek in probably a little more of a traditional setting as far as his playing, like traditional Indian. He's a Indian musician, but yeah, it's definitely different for ECM, and if you like 80s synth pop in particular, this would be quite appealing. I think I got a couple more here. Joe Pass, University of Akron concert. Another one which I'd pretty much forgotten about. I couldn't tell you how long I've had this, maybe 15 years. It kind of brings me to Robert Z's thread that was going around. People were talking about, being amazed at one who didn't listen to certain records in 10 years. I mean, well, for me it's been, 15, 20, and I'm sure some of you relate too. You come across stuff you totally forgot about. This is a completely solo guitar, unaccompanied, electric guitar. I guess the closest comparison, just from the one listen after so long, would be someone like Jim Hall, who I know, of course, Gary did a really nice profile on recently. And he's someone I hadn't heard a great deal of. I have one other thing by him. I think it's a trio with Niels Orsted Peterson and Oscar Peterson. Just I think a drummerless trio. And yeah, his style is very, his tone is very kind of dry, almost unamplified sounding. Very good though, very rhythmic. Does like accompanying himself almost like on bass lines. And you could hear his foot tapping throughout at times, the rhythm, tapping out the rhythm. So yeah, really nice if you like, again, solo guitar, in this case, solo jazz guitar. Just, basically accompanying himself in real time. Very, would very much recommend it. And yeah, it looks like primarily standards here. There's like Duke Ellington medley there, but yeah, really nice stuff. Nice revisiting, and I'll have to look into the other one I have. It's a CD I have with the the trio. But, yeah, really nice, straight ahead jazz guitar. And finally, here is a little bit of an addendum to. I did the Tangerine Dream video. I was Ben Costello had asked about some post-1980s Tangerine Dream, and I totally forgot to show this one because we were talking about it a little bit. Yeah, Underwater Sunlight from 1986. Yeah, Ben, if you're watching, I would definitely recommend this one. Give it a quick listen earlier today. Or yeah, listen to the whole thing, and it is very good. The first side, Song of the Whale, at times is almost like a progressive rock touches. You got some distorted electric guitar, like power chords in there, but there's also some really nice quiet solo piano. And the second side is probably again a little more like on the synth pop side. I'd get it for the fourth cut, Underwater Twilight. To me that's worth the price of the album alone. And I think this is, I'm not sure how it is over there, but over here this is a little more commonly found in the racks, and usually for pretty cheap. So yeah, I'd definitely get this, and anyone else, if you find it for cheap somewhere. So for their 80s stuff, this is I think even among their better ones. And being that it's one of the last ones with Chris Frank on it, who he'd been with the group since '71, Elvis and Shari, and of course Edgar Froese and Paul Hasslinger. So yeah, very good, very warm, atmospheric record from them. And yeah, there'll definitely be more of their stuff in general to show. Now getting to the background music here. Tim Clement, Water Station from 1990. Yeah, Gary did a video, and he was trying to describe that song that I was playing before with the spoken lyrics, "Beautiful Lady." Yeah, that was again, like a lot of things I listened to. It's an old musical Starstream staple. In fact, I have the episode in which this album was featured from. It was either the tail end of 1990 or beginning of 91. Still have it, still listen to it from time to time. But it took me years before I finally got the album itself. And it's pretty diverse. There's a lot of, it almost could be like a compilation. Some of the pieces are so different from each other. But it somehow is, for me, it seems to all fit together. But would recommend it for, a different take on this kind of instrumental music. Also, Michael Dana is a noted soundtrack composer. He collaborates with him on here too. There's Tim Clement on right there. So yeah, Tim Clement, Water Station. So we'll do it for this time around. Just wanted to come on and again get back to a series which I hadn't done in quite a while. And amidst again all this listening to these various things, I'm still digging out some of the old vinyl and exploring and remembering how much I liked some of it, and again surprising. You know how it is, you surprise yourself by what you have sometimes. So yeah, I'm not sure when I'll be on again, but I still have some ideas, and well, until next time, I'll get them back out soon. So hope you're all well, and thank you all for watching. Peace, love, and joy.